So you've made it, you've wrapped your shoot. Now it's time for the edit. But meltdowns in the editing room, your editing software crashes in the middle of your edit. You lost some files. I'm gonna walk you through all the ups and downs of post-production to showing your finished film and being proud of what you achieved. So if that sounds interesting to you, keep watching. Hello and welcome back. It's Ariana and this is part 6 out of 6 of my Filmmaking Starter Series. You're done with your shooting, or you think you are, and now you're in the editing mess. Martin Scorsese actually said, if you're in the edit and the first time you see your edit, you're not completely disappointed and confused and you think nothing's working, something's wrong. So, it's perfectly normal to feel that way at one point. It's the first interpretation we remember was the script. You as the director interpreting the script that someone had written. Then on set, the actors interpret your script, and also every head of department does so equally. In the end, those are all interpretations of the story. And then when you're done shooting, you go to the editing room, and that's where another interpretation of the story takes place. Usually in big productions, you have a designated editor that's just specialized in editing. And there's a good reason for that, because it's a specialized field, just like directing. So you might have a friend that does the editing with you. But as a director, you're sitting in on the edit anyway. For a feature, it can be like 3 hours, your first rough cut, because you just add all the scenes next to each other and also the full coverage. So if you have a 2-shot and two singles, you use all 3 just to see what it looks like, how they act, and so on. So it's much longer than it will be in the end. The same goes for your short film. If you're aiming for a 5-minute short, your rough cut might be 12 minutes. It might be 15 minutes, and that's okay. It's just a rough cut. So where to go from there? You have to look at every individual scene, and you have to look at what do you want to highlight here. Do we just want to tell the story as quickly and efficiently as possible? Of course we do. And how do we achieve that? We have to go back to show, don't tell as much as we can. So if there's any line of dialogue where you think that's not really necessary, everything that's not really necessary, you cut that out. So you have your rough cut, you duplicate that sequence so your rough cut is in place. You can also make the top-down method, which is, if you think a take is decent, you take it to video 2 track. If you think a take is good, you take it to video 3. And if you think that absolutely has to stay in, you take it to video 3. So the ones at the top in video 3, you know that those are your most favorite bits. You can go from there. It's like cherry picking. You have all the cherries picked out, and now you need to make the structure work. And you just work your way from scene to scene, and then you also watch the whole thing. When you think, right now I cannot do this anymore, you just take a break for a few days, get back to it with fresh eyes, and also have your DP that's not been in the editing room with you all the time look at it and give you his opinion or her opinion. You as the director, you do have final say in the edit, especially if you're producing as well. So again, if you're starting out as an independent filmmaker, which I'm assuming you are, you actually have something to be grateful for here, which is your complete creative freedom. So, troubleshooting. If you run into troubles, how do you fix those, and what kind of problems might those be? Well, let me paint the scene for you. When I was studying in Munich in 2008, I shot parts of my 78-minute film. I went home to Switzerland over the weekend to shoot Saturday and Sunday. And then on Sunday evening, I went back to Munich to study for another full week. And when it was time to edit in summer of 2008, back then we had mini DV tapes. We had imported 20 hours of footage, which of course took a long time. And when I got back into the editing room to edit that, it just said media offline. You should have seen my face there, like, obviously I was very upset. But my technical supervisor, he came to help me and he actually figured out what the problem was. We scrambled there for a bit, but luckily my supervisor knew about this trick and he figured it out. So I did not have to import everything again. That also goes for being on set. You always have to have backups. So your DIT or your camera assistant has to do the backup of the SD cards that you use for the camera. And the recommendation goes 3 times, back it up 3 times. Imagine having to redo a whole shooting day because you wouldn't spend like $200 on hard drives. And I think spending a little more on hard drives goes a long way, not just for onset, but also later for post-production. So what I learned is you have your computer that you are editing on, then you've got an external hard drive that's right there in the room. Then you also have a cloud, ideally, where you save the project file and the raw footage. And you've got an external hard drive where you just put all the raw footage and you put it in a different building. Why? That's like kind of worst case. Of course, you do have the cloud, but if you lose your access to your cloud for some reason and the building where you were editing burns down, that can happen, you still have a backed up copy in another building. Also, down the line, if you are making a film in 2025 and you still want to store it for years to come, you have to use your hard drive every 2 years. Just attach them to the computer, open the directory, so it still works. Hard drives are only good for like 5 to 10 years. Number 1, if you realize that you have such bad audio, speaking for experience here, that you have to re-record, you have to think about, do I actually have to reshoot, so with the image, or do I just have to re-record sound? Re-recording sound is much cheaper. You just get the actors in, you have the playback, they have the earplugs, so they see the image and they can have a few takes, and you have your sound recorders there, and you just have a silent room. You just record a few times until you're satisfied. So usually that should do the trick, unless your image is also so bad that you cannot stand it. Of course, on your first film, don't be too hard on yourself. Once you've edited, you also want to spend some time on the sound portion of your video, because did you know that sound is actually very important when it comes to evoking emotions in the audience? Usually you have sound and you have the visuals. So sound is more connected to emotions and more emotion provoking than the visuals. What goes into good sound? Of course, your dialogue, but also all the sounds that are in the scene. So we have the Atmo, which is everything that you recorded on set. I've got my glass of water here and you can hear the straw and I'm taking a sip. So if that was happening in the scene, that would be called Atmos, because it was part of the scene and it was also recorded during the shoot. Then we've got the Foleys. So if someone got a slap, usually you don't touch each other when you do those kind of things. So you have such a distance, the one that gets slapped. So you have to add the sound later, and that's called a Foley. So if that's someone being hit, if it's footsteps, it doesn't really matter. If it's rain, if it's not recorded on set, it's a Foley. And then, of course, there's the music, which if it's original music that is being written for your project, it's called a film score or film music. And if it's taken from a library, it's just music. Of course, if you don't have the ability to have a composer, which I would try, I've worked with 4 different composers at this point. I really love music. Like, music is one of my passions because I also taught music back in school. And I've been playing the violin since I was 5. So I've also contributed to the soundtrack in terms of composing one of the key melodies every time and giving that to the composer. And so music to me is very personal and very important. And what is the purpose of music? Basically give orientation, like, what am I looking at here? Am I looking at a dangerous lunatic, or am I looking at a father that's just, a harmless person, a friendly person, a kind person? That's, the music is telling me that, because the actor, of course, the actor does their best, but if you just have a full shot of someone walking, it's hard to tell what kind of a person is this. The music is vital in telling you what to expect next, in leading the audience towards. We've got tension in the score and in the sound design as well. So that's where the music plays a vital part. Either way, if you want to have music composed for you, or if you have just something from a library, of course, you have to be mindful of copyright with everything you do. I've also talked about the copyright things with actors in the pre-production video, so you can check that out. But in terms of music, there's websites out there that are full of royalty-free music. The ability to use it under a Creative Commons license if it's just for friends and family, and under a commercial license if you want to send it out to festivals or put it on YouTube. Sometimes you have to give attribution. That means you have to put in the title, music by blah, blah. You can also do like a to-do list. Okay, we need those Foleys, we need those sound effects, and then I want to have music and the time code from here to here. You only think about music once you have picture lock, so once you're happy with the length and the order of your clips, and you're only gonna change the amplitude of the sound, of the dialogue, of all the sounds that come in there, and also music and color grading and titles and effects. But you don't change the order or the length of your clips anymore. So that's what picture lock means. Exception is you can still add the end credits, but you also need music for the end credits, so keep that in mind. So I would add end credits before I do the final score. Talk about the final score so you know how long the music for the final film is going to be. You might also realize in editing that you have some scenes where something doesn't quite work out, or it's not as clear as you hoped it would be, and then the music can really be a game changer for you. If you've made it this far, you're way ahead of 90% of first-time filmmakers, and now you know what to do, so it's about applying it. Don't forget to check out my free resources linked down below. That's my character bio template that helps you create memorable characters very easily, and my Filmmaking Starter checklist that goes along with this series. Both are completely free. They're linked down below. Coming up is a video of me breaking down my creative process on All In. So I will also be going into the creative process regarding the soundtrack and the collaboration I had with the composer. So look out for that. Looking forward to getting to know you in the comments if you've just subscribed. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.